Hey everyone, welcome back. I rode my Indian Scout to a dealer almost 2 hours away in really cold weather just so that I could take a test ride on an Indian Chieftain, and it was worth it. Normally when talking about a test ride, I will go through all the specs and pricing of the bike options, but I've already done that on the Chieftain actually in 2 different videos, so I'm not going to go through all that again. The first video was my summary of Indian's 2023 lineup that I did late last year. The most recent video is here, where I compare the Indian Chieftain with the Harley Street Glide and take a test ride on the Street Glide. The summary is that the Indian Chieftain has 4 different versions ranging from 23,000 to about 35,000 and has either the Thunderstroke 111 or 116 engine depending on the version. If you watch the video with the Street Glide test ride, you'll also hear me go on a rant about my local Indian dealer, which is why I rode almost 2 hours away to take a test ride instead of going to my local dealer. Because of that experience, I was very close to committing myself to just buying a Harley and being done with Indian, but I wasn't totally settled on which Harley to buy. You can hear some of that discussion in my Road Glide review here. The problem was that I rode the Heritage Classic and really liked it, but I'm leaning more towards getting a bike with a fairing. I assumed that the Street Glide and Road Glide were also going to be enjoyable rides, but for me they weren't. For someone like me who has been riding for a little less than 2 years, the weight distribution on those bikes and the vibration of the Harley engine was difficult to adjust to. That left me in a quandary of what to do, because I also assumed that I would have the same problems with the handling on the Indian Chieftain or Challenger, but I still wanted to find out for sure. Hey folks, quick commercial break. If you're enjoying these review videos, please like and subscribe to the channel, leave any comments you have below. I appreciate your feedback. So I called this dealership ahead of time to let them know I was considering upgrading my Scout in the next 3 months or so, and could I come down to test ride a Chieftain. Because it was chilly and very overcast, they checked the weather to make sure it was going to stay dry, and they said, sure, come on down. These folks went out of their way to help me out. I don't know if it is standard procedure or not, but the gentleman I worked with, who is either the general manager or sales manager, I'm not sure what his official title is, took me out on the test ride. Instead of just going over the features of the bike with me and then kicking me loose, he took me on a guided ride. And that was a really nice touch, because I'm not familiar with the area, so I had no idea where to go to get a good riding experience or a good test ride with this bike. So let's get down to the test ride itself, since that's why we're here. The bike I rode was the Chieftain Dark Horse, so it has the 116 engine and lots of gadgets and features. On all the test rides I've done, I've not messed with any of the infotainment settings. I haven't used the radio, navigation, etc. I just focused on the ride itself. The only thing I did on this bike was play with the adjustable windshield a little bit. I apologize that I didn't get a walk-around video of the bike with the engine on so that you can hear what it sounds like. I didn't find a good time to do that. The bike was an absolute blast to ride. It was incredibly balanced and felt very lightweight. This bike felt more like my 550-pound Scout than an 820-pound touring bike. It was very nimble and easy to lean into the corners. I had no issue with the weight of the fairing, even though it's mounted on the wheel forks. The torque and acceleration on this thing are incredible, as is expected with the Thunderstroke 116 engine. I was blown away by how easy this thing was to ride. The wind protection is pretty decent. The fairing felt a little bit smaller than the Street Glide, but the nice thing about the Chieftain is that every model has an adjustable power windshield, even the base model, so you can adjust it up or down based on your height and preferences. We hit speeds of 65 or so, and I had no issues with buffeting at all. The ride is smooth, gear shifting is easy once you get used to the positioning of your feet on the floorboards and shifter, and that, by the way, is something I've had to adjust on all these test rides, both Indian and Harley. The floorboards all seem to be a bit higher in relation to the seat than my Scout. On my Scout, my feet are a little more stretched than on these touring bikes. I'm guessing that has to do with the really long tank on the Scout, not sure, but it is a noticeable difference. If you've watched my test rides on the Indian Super Chief Limited and Springfield Classic, you may remember that one of my biggest gripes with those 2 bikes is the air handler sticking out on the left side and rubbing on my knee. This is definitely less of an issue with the Chieftain. I still noticed the air handler, but not as much, and it wasn't annoying at all. Also, because I was on a guided ride. I didn't get the chance to try any slow speed maneuvers such as doing a U-turn, but coming to a stop and turning from a stop were no problem on this bike, so I'm very confident that other slow speed handling will be fine. This is my 6th test ride in the past couple of months, and every other bike I've ridden has had something I wasn't thrilled about. The only other bike that came close to this was the Harley Heritage Classic, and the reason I wasn't totally sold on that was because I was leaning towards a bike with a fairing, and it doesn't have one. I know that no bike is perfect, but I can't think of anything on this bike that I have an issue with. Well, except for the question of how to afford it. So to sum it all up, I'm sorry Harley, but in my book you've been dethroned. The Indian Chieftain was a much better riding experience than the Street Glide. I am totally sold on this bike. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one of these in my garage in the very near future. That is it for this time, folks. Thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate you hanging out with me on this ride. See you on the next one. Until then, stay safe and have a great day.